Underdog are cool. You keep shouting out that name. That name is an enemy. And I told you he's an enemy. And you're going to keep shouting him out, not realizing you go there, you're dead, because he dead.
And then you're talking about, I don't want to, name specific names. Talking about
Cemetery Larry, he in the cemetery.
Cemetery Larry, I like that.
Cemetery. I had his raise. I got his raise right in the pocket. Now I got to give it to somebody else. Now I got to give everything he worked for. I got to give it to somebody else because the person he went with, he got to that shit. Time slot from him.
Okay.
Because they're not gonna want to compete. Now they fired. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like they fired. You know what I mean?
So,
like how his loyalty was
there anything specifically? You said Rashad specifically. Was there anything that he specifically did that let you know, like I really can't?
He kept shouting out the dude's name that was tanking our show.
Cemetery Larry.
Yeah, like the dude didn't do nothing for you, dog. Your deal was done before he got here. First of all, real talk, he tried to fire you at the beginning of the season. He tried to fire you at the beginning of the season. That's why they was trying to, Skip was getting paid for 4 days. He was only there 3. One was gonna be our show. And that was to replace him because they both contrarian. They both go against it. But they said Skip does it better. He don't cuss, he don't drop the N-bomb every other hour. So they're looking for these sponsors, so they're trying to fire you. Me and Joe standing on 10 toes. Nah, we good. We're good with our roster. We're number 1 with our roster, right? So what they did is like, all right, well, Joe and Gil ain't breaking. Hey, Rashad, you want to go to the football? Yeah, come on, football on Friday. Yeah, do a little football. So you're gonna jump on the football. Then they're like, hey, can Skip come on the show with you? We can do that on Friday too. Then they do an episode with Skip on Friday, and he's like, oh man, me and Skip and. So they did that to him.
Right.
But I'm like, yo, dude never did anything. Why are you going with dude? I told you we had beef and we had war. He's trying to take over Gils Arena. So you giving him shout outs, 3 of them. I told you we beefing with him.
Gilbert Arenas has officially poured gasoline on the already burning Gils Arena drama. And now Rashad McCants is making it clear that he's not about to let Gilbert tell the entire story without giving his side. After Gilbert appeared on Carmelo Anthony's 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast and discussed what he says happened behind the scenes at Underdog, he also addressed his issues with Rashad. According to Gilbert, he had warned people that problems were developing behind the scenes and believed certain members of the crew chose to support the wrong people once everything started falling apart. But Rashad McCants clearly wasn't happy with the way Gilbert presented the story. Shortly after the interview began circulating online, Rashad responded by essentially saying, "Bring me on the show. If it sounds like a lie, it's a lie. I've got receipts." Then he took things a step further by teasing that a Netflix documentary could be on the way, while accusing Gilbert of trying to damage his reputation with what Rashad says are false claims. That's a serious response, because Rashad is essentially telling everyone that Gilbert's version isn't the complete story, and that he may have evidence to support his own account. Here's where things become especially interesting. If Gilbert's version of events is accurate, he says Rashad knew about the problems with Underdog before everything became public. Gilbert claims he warned Rashad that there were issues behind the scenes and that changes were coming to the show. If Rashad really knew all of that and still publicly supported certain people connected to the situation, it's easier to understand why Gilbert says he felt betrayed. On the other hand, Rashad clearly believes there's another side to the story, and he seems more than willing to tell it. Now fans are waiting to see whether he actually follows through with the receipts he says he has. Because if Rashad truly has evidence that contradicts Gilbert's account, this entire Gils Arena saga could become even more complicated. Right now, we have Gilbert's side, Rashad promising proof, and the audience caught in the middle trying to figure out whose version tells the full story. As for the rest of the situation, we're still waiting to hear what Brandon Jennings has to say about everything that happened. We're also waiting to hear from Kenyon Martin, since both of them were part of the show and close enough to the situation to have their own perspective on what was happening behind the scenes. And honestly, I don't even know what Skip Bayless is doing right now. To be completely honest, I don't really care what Skip is doing when it comes to this situation. I know some of you didn't like when I said this before, but I'm gonna say it again. I don't think Skip is the person people are tuning in to watch by himself on a standalone show. That's simply how I see it. Skip is a recognizable name, and no one can take that away from him. He spent decades in sports media and has built an incredible career. But when it comes to a show like Gils Arena, the real appeal was always the chemistry between the personalities. It was the group dynamic, the conversations, the debates, the trash talk, the jokes, the disagreements. It was all of those personalities feeding off one another. That's what made people keep watching. Because if we're being honest, most people aren't saying, "I can't wait to watch Skip Bayless sit by himself and talk for hours." That's never really been the format that made him successful. Even during Undisputed, the draw was having someone across from him. First it was Shannon Sharpe, then other personalities. The back and forth was always the product. That's why I've said Skip works best when he has someone across the table from him. He needs that chemistry. He needs someone to challenge him, debate him, and create those conversations. That's not an insult. It's simply the format that's worked throughout his career. Now, I know Skip and Gilbert have a relationship outside the show. They play golf together and they've known each other for a while. So I understand why Skip entered the conversation and why he was considered for the show. I'm not saying he brings no value, but at the same time, we also have to be honest about what viewers actually wanted to watch. People tuned in to Gils Arena because of Gilbert, Rashad, Brandon, Kenyon, Nick Young, and the combination of personalities they brought together. That chemistry was the product. The debates were the product. Watching former players argue basketball, joke with one another, and naturally bounce ideas back and forth, that's what made the show special. So when you begin changing pieces of that formula, people are naturally going to notice. And that's really the bigger point I'm trying to make when talking about the business decisions. When I see a show that's clearly performing well, attracting a growing audience, and reaching the point where fans want 5 episodes a week, then suddenly the schedule gets reduced to only 2 days, I can't help but ask questions. What changed? Now, I understand budgets. I understand that businesses have expenses. Sponsorships, production costs, salaries, and operating expenses all have to be considered. I'm not pretending to be an expert on the financial side of these deals. If the numbers stop making sense, then I understand why changes sometimes have to be made. But when a show is obviously growing, the audience is asking for more content, and it's becoming one of the biggest sports shows on YouTube, it's fair to wonder why the company would begin scaling things back instead of expanding them. Then you start hearing about other reported changes behind the scenes. The schedule gets reduced, the structure starts shifting, new personalities are introduced, the original cast is reportedly being asked to do things differently. At a certain point, you have to wonder whether the people making those decisions fully understood what made the show successful in the first place. Because sometimes corporations step in and begin viewing everything strictly through a business lens. They study the numbers, they evaluate the budget, they review contracts, they focus on sponsorship revenue. And I understand why businesses operate that way. But sometimes, while trying to maximize the business, they unintentionally weaken the very product that attracted the audience in the first place. That's what this situation reminds me of. It reminds me a little of what happened between Joe Budden and Complex, where discussions reportedly centered around expanding content, creating new shows, bringing in more sponsors, and generating additional revenue. At the same time, there were disagreements about whether the people creating that content would be compensated for the increased workload. I'm not saying the two situations are identical. I'm simply saying that we've seen examples where companies try to build additional revenue streams around a successful product, while the creators begin saying, "Hold on, this is our show, this is our audience, this chemistry is what built all of this," and the company starts making decisions that reshape the entire structure. Tension is almost inevitable. That's just how business works. And once again, I'm not sitting here pretending I know every detail of the contracts or every conversation that happened behind closed doors. I wasn't in those meetings. I wasn't part of the group chat. I wasn't there during the negotiations. So like everyone else, I'm analyzing this situation from the outside based on the information that's been made public.